Hello students, today we will discuss about David Copperfield as is an autobiographical note. Okay. डेविड कॉपरफील्ड जो कि चार्ल्स डिकेंस ने लिखी है, इन्होंने ये एक ऑटोबायोग्राफी है क्योंकि इन्होंने अपने बारे में यहाँ पर लिखा है. ओके. द बुक्स मोस्ट अनसेटिस्फैक्ट्री एस्पेक्ट इज अनडाउटली द फेक ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल नोट. It is difficult to criticize because obviously any novelist has perfect right to invent a fictional character, partly like and unlike himself. But here we have something more than that. There are some incidents which make no sense at all in terms of the plot and of David's position in the world. But they become crystal clear as soon as they are seen as an attempt to exercise or tame intractable and bitter memories. Take, for instance, David's account of fears when he was first taken to Dr. Strong's school in Canterbury. Now, David has no family connections with Micawber. He has merely paid to lodge in his house in a distant part of a country. Dickens had a great partiality for the character of David. The thing seems to be that the life of David Copperfield is the life of Dickens himself. Dickens has written of David, "Of all my books, I like this the best. I have in my heart a favorite child, and his name is David Copperfield." The autobiographical elements has been of interest to the readers ever since it was introduced. David is the victim of circumstances, as was the case with Dickens himself. Temperament and environment produced a lasting effect on Dickens just as they do what introduced. Dickens had seen the vicissitudes of life. As a reporter, a clerk, and an actor, he was born in a poor family. His education, like David's, was neglected. David rose to be a great journalist like Dickens. The Salem House of David under Mr. Crackle is reminiscent of Wellington House Academy, where Dickens experienced a deplorable state. Flogging was the order of the day, and Dickens had a taste of the unmanly behavior. These things remind one of the school days of Dickens. To both Dickens and David, their own life was their only school. Dickens is rightly called a graduate of the London street. He wrote what he had observed in the streets of London, and similar was the case with David. Like Dickens, David was forced to work in the factory when a mere child. The prison life of Micawber well reminds us of the author's father, imprisoned for debts. There are other minor details like the author's interest for the profession of law in the character of David. To a great extent, it is correct to say that there are glimpses in the life of David of some of the silent features of Dickens, but it sounds uncanny in the case of genuine artist to have given everything about his personality. The autobiographical touches are only there in the novel to lend color to it. The posthumous word of David, new characters like Dr. Strong with his ideal school, Peggotty, Miss Trotwood herself playing Providence of David are the creation of Dickens' mind, having nothing to do with the author's life. The fact is that David Copperfield does not remain a faithful autobiography of Dickens. It is novel first and foremost and a favorite child of Dickens. What is here in the novel in the form of autobiography simply to embellish it. The Dickens was a great genius and is permanently among the classics is certain. But the genius was that of a great entertainer, and he had for the most part no profounder responsibility as a creative artist that this description suggests. As writers F.R. Levish, he does art not place Dickens in the great traditions of the English novel. He lacks a total significance of a profoundly serious kind. Even Santana, a total one of the best critics of Dickens, has to remark that in spite of ardent simplicity and openness of heart, how insensible Dickens was to greater themes of the human imagination. Religion, science, politics, and art. Perhaps properly speaking, he had no ideas regarding the daily life of mankind. What entered into his imagination as a child is to be found in the world of his novels, and those things that could not enter remain forever outside the world. This childlike vision of human beings conditions Dickens' view of the world and made it a universe at times. Crude in conflicting black and white, at times sinister, a heightened version of London of his boyhood days. Negative criticism dealing with nothing but weakness and limitations can play so much havoc with Dickens that we are left wondering what possible claim he can have to be considered a great novelist. His world is fantastic and top-sided and terribly incomplete. Even if we ignore that what it leaves out, there is still much to be said against the things that are included in it. His plotting may be good. Plotting of its kind, but the fact remains that it has long been tiresome to the readers. His men and women never rise above ashes and wishful affections to the poetic passions of the love. His morality is an affair of melodramatic and black and white. His people are either good or bad. If good, they have never a vicious impulse, and if bad, never a decadent tone. His pathos is often exaggerated and artificial. Even his comic character become sometimes tedious mechanisms that merely go on repeating certain catchwords and gestures. Besides these general faults and limitations, there are some other more particular limitations regarding the art of characterization. Chief among them is an inability to see far below the outward and visible idiosyncrasies of mankind. James Oliphant said the prime defect of Dickens was the lack of insight into character. Carlyle was lesser and good deal more accurate in his famous complaint that instead of fashioning his characters as Shakespeare did from the heart outwards, your Scott fashions them from the skin inwards, never getting near the heart of them. And he would have said the same words about Dickens. Dickens' power of characterization was further limited by the circumstances of his birth. He was acquainted only with the middle class society of London, and most of his characters belonging to high society. This limitation is naturally most marked in his early novels, but it continued to the end. Lord David Cashel has observed that his serious characters, with a few exceptions like David Copperfield, are the conventional, virtuous, and vicious dummies of melodrama. He cannot draw complex education aristocratic type, and what is more unfortunate, even in his memorable figures, he shows sometimes an uncertain grasp of psychological essentials. He relies personality with unparalleled vividness, but he does not understand the organic principles that underlie that personality. These are the limitations of Charles Dickens. There is so much missing from his world. It has no place for so many concerns and people, from ideas to sexual passion, from philosopher to finally reach the positive qualities. The virtue of Dickens are so astounding and transcendent that adverse criticism can riddle him through and through and leave him completely unhurt. Dickens, the creator whose great comic figures abide in our mind like God and fairies, whose best moments are not merely lifelike but better than life. This is the Dickens who will not die for many a year. He seems in so many ways to be very English and indeed very Victorian, but there is something universal in his appeal. His genius has conquered many countries, and every generation discovers it afresh. Wherever there is pity and laughter, he can go in triumph. The good, the gentle, high gifted, ever friendly Noel Dickens Carlyle called him, and whole population have caught up and they sounded the praise.